Elena Vasquez stood in the waiting room outside the great chamber. Her hands were steady, but her heart was beating fast. Today was the day humanity would ask to join the Galactic Council. She had practiced her speech 100 times. She knew every fact about Earth, every number about human progress, every reason why her species deserved a seat among the stars. The door opened with a soft hiss. A tall, thin alien with blue skin and 4 arms gestured for her to enter. "The council will see you now," it said in perfect English. Elena nodded and walked through the doorway. The great chamber was huge. The ceiling was so high she could barely see it. 12 massive seats were arranged in a circle, each one holding a different kind of alien. Some looked like giant crystals that glowed with inner light. Others were clouds of gas held together by force fields. One looked like a pile of metal. Parts that moved and shifted constantly. Elena walked to the center of the circle. A small platform rose from the floor beneath her feet. She could feel 12 sets of alien eyes watching her. Some had eyes like hers. Others saw with different kinds of senses she could not understand. "Speak, human," said a voice that sounded like breaking glass. It came from the largest crystal being. Elena knew this was High Arbiter Zethkalar, the leader of the Vorthek people. They were older than any other race in the galaxy. Elena cleared her throat. "Honored members of the Galactic Council, I am Ambassador Elena Vasquez. I speak for all humanity today. We come before you to ask for membership in your great alliance." A sound like wind through caves came from one of the gas creatures. Elena realized it was laughing. Other council members made their own sounds of amusement. Only a few stayed quiet. "Please," Elena continued, "let me tell you about my people. In just 200 years, we went from riding horses to flying between planets. We have built cities that float in the clouds of Venus. We have mining stations in the asteroid belt. Our ships have reached the edge of our solar system. 200 years. The crystal being's voice was full of mockery. "Child, my people have been traveling between stars for 50,000 years. We were building wonders when your species was still living in caves." Elena felt her cheeks grow hot, but she kept talking. "We know we are young, but we learn fast. We adapt to any challenge. When our planet grew too crowded, we built space stations. When we needed more resources, we learned to mine asteroids. When diseases threatened us, we found cures. We never give up." A new voice spoke. This one sounded like buzzing bees. It came from a creature that looked like a giant insect with many eyes. "You still fight wars among yourselves. Your own kind kills your own kind. How can you claim to be ready for the stars?" "We have problems," Elena admitted. "But we are getting better. Every year there is less war on Earth. We have learned to work together. The space colonies are run by people from every nation. We share our technology. We help each other survive." "Survive?" The crystal being's laughter was like the sound of ice breaking. "You think survival is an achievement? Every species in this council has moved beyond such basic needs. We have conquered death itself. We can create matter from energy. We can travel faster than light without ships. What can you offer us that we do not already have?" Elena reached into her bag and pulled out a small device. "This is a medical scanner we invented last year. It can find and cure cancer in minutes. This food bar can feed a person for 3 days and is made from nothing but air and water. This tool can fix almost any machine, even if we have never seen that kind of machine before." She held up more items. "We make things that work. We solve problems. We find ways to do more with less. Other species might have better technology, but we know how to make it cheap and simple. We know how to make it work when everything goes wrong." The insect creature buzzed again. "Primitive tools for a primitive species. We have medical systems that can rebuild a body from a single cell. We have energy sources that will never run out. We have machines that think better than any organic brain." "But do they work when they break?" Elena asked. "Can you fix them with simple tools? Can you make them from materials you find anywhere? Our things might not be as fancy, but they are strong. They last. They work even when everything else fails." New voice joined the conversation. This one was soft and musical. It came from a beautiful creature that looked like it was made of living light. The human speaks of adaptability. This is ... interesting, but adaptation is what animals do. We are beyond such things now. We shape reality to our will. We do not adapt to problems, we remove them. Elena felt frustrated. These aliens did not understand. They thought being advanced meant never facing challenges. They thought progress meant having everything be easy. What happens when you face something you cannot remove? She asked. What happens when your perfect technology stops working? What happens when you face something new, something your machines were not built to handle? The crystal being's glow grew brighter. Elena could tell it was angry. Such things do not happen to us, human. We have had millions of years to perfect our methods. We have seen every challenge the universe can offer. There is nothing we cannot handle. Elena wanted to argue more, but she could see it was no use. These beings had decided humans were not good enough. They thought being young meant being worthless. They thought having problems meant being weak. I ask you to reconsider, Elena said. Humanity has much to offer. We are creative, we are determined. We solve problems in ways no one expects. We could be valuable allies. The council members looked at each other. Some spoke in languages Elena could not understand. Others communicated in ways she could not even sense. Finally, the crystal being spoke again. The Galactic Council has made its decision. Humanity is denied membership. You are too young, too primitive, too violent. Your technology is crude. Your society is chaotic. You have nothing to offer us that we need or want. Elena felt like she had been hit in the stomach. Please give us a chance. Let us prove ourselves. Come back in 1,000 years, the crystal being said. Maybe by then you will have grown beyond your animal nature. Maybe you will have something worth our attention. Until then, stay in your little corner of space and try not to destroy yourselves. The platform began to lower. Elena realized the meeting was over. She had failed. Humanity would not join the council. As she walked toward the door, she heard the aliens talking among themselves. They were not trying to hide their words. Walk and meet sacks, one said with a laugh. Did you see how proud they were of their little tools? Said another. They think they are special because they can fix things. How quaint. I give them 100 years before they wipe themselves out. Elena's hands became fists, but she kept walking. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her anger. She reached her ship and sat in the pilot's seat. Her hands were shaking. Now, she started the engines and began the long journey back to Earth. As the alien station grew smaller behind her, Elena made herself a promise. Humanity would prove these aliens wrong. They would show the galaxy that being young and adaptable was not a weakness. It was a strength the Council would someday need. The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying Elena and humanity's rejection back toward home. Behind her, the Council members were already forgetting about the humans. They had more important things to discuss. They had no idea what they had just turned away. 50 years had passed since Elena Vasquez returned to Earth with news of humanity's rejection. She was gone now, buried on Mars where she had spent her final years building the first permanent human city on another planet. But her words lived on in the minds of every human who reached for the stars. They think we are too primitive, she had told the United Earth Assembly. They want us to become like them. But what if our way is better? What if being human is exactly what the galaxy needs? Dr. Sarah Chun stood in her laboratory on Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon. Around her, machines hummed and sparked as they built things that should have been impossible. She was working on something the Galactic Council would have called primitive, a way to make anything from basic atoms. Other species used massive machines that required rare materials and enormous amounts of energy. Sarah's method was different. It used the same process that made crystals grow in caves, but faster and smarter. She could make a spaceship engine from nothing but space dust and starlight. The breakthrough came when I stopped trying to be like them, Sarah told her assistant. as they watched a new piece of equipment form itself from raw carbon. They think you need exotic matter and dimensional manipulation to build things, but look at this. It works. It is simple. And it costs almost nothing to make. The equipment finished growing. It was a quantum processor more powerful than anything the council races used, but it looked like a piece of coral from Earth's oceans. Sarah picked it up and smiled. Humanity was not trying to copy the aliens anymore. They were becoming something new. Across the solar system, similar work was happening everywhere humans lived. On Titan, Commander Marcus Webb was training soldiers for a war nobody expected. His methods would have made the council laugh. While other species relied on energy weapons and force fields, Webb's troops used old-fashioned bullets and bombs. Energy can be absorbed, redirected, or neutralized, Webb explained to his newest recruits. But you cannot argue with a chunk of metal moving at high speed. You cannot hack a rock. You cannot disable gravity. His soldiers learned to fight in ways the galaxy had forgotten. They used camouflage instead of cloaking devices. They dug trenches instead of projecting barriers. They moved quietly instead of teleporting. Every weapon they carried could be built in any machine shop. Every tactic they used worked even if all their fancy equipment failed. The Council thinks we are primitive because we still use kinetic weapons, Webb said as his troops practiced with railguns that fired solid metal slugs. Let them think that. When the time comes, they will learn that simple can be deadly. In the asteroid belt, engineer Yuki Tanaka was solving a different problem. Human ships were small and weak compared to the massive vessels the Council races used, but Yuki had an idea. Instead of building bigger ships, she would make them smarter. Her breakthrough came from studying how living things healed themselves. She created hull materials that could repair damage automatically. If a ship was hit, the hull would grow back stronger than before. If a system was damaged, it would rebuild itself using materials from other parts of the ship. We cannot build ships as big as theirs, Yuki explained to her team as they watched a test hull repair itself after being shot with a laser. But we can build ships that refuse to die. They can destroy us once, maybe twice, but we will keep coming back. The test hull had completely healed itself. Where the laser had burned through, new material had grown. It was thicker and tougher than the original. Yuki nodded with satisfaction. Human engineering was not about building things that never broke. It was about building things that got stronger when they did break, while human engineers worked on. New technologies, human explorers were spreading across space. They did not ask permission from the Council. They did not try to claim the best worlds. Instead, they went to places other species had ignored. Captain Lisa Rodriguez landed her ship on a planet the Council had marked as uninhabitable. The atmosphere was toxic, the gravity was too strong. The radiation would kill most living things in hours. For the Council races, this world was useless. For humans, it was home. The first dome is finished, Rodriguez reported to Earth 6 months later. Population, 500. The children are already adapting to the high gravity. We expect to be self-sufficient within 2 years. Her colony was not alone. Humans were building cities in the clouds of gas giants. They were mining water from comets. They were growing food in zero gravity. Every world the Council had rejected, humans made livable. We do not terraform planets, Rodriguez explained to a group of new colonists. We terraform ourselves, we adapt, we change. We become what we need to be. The children born on high-gravity worlds grew up strong and tough. The ones raised in low gravity learned to move in ways that looked like flying. The ones who lived in the asteroid belt could work in vacuum without suits for hours at a time. Each human colony was different. Each one solved problems in its own way. But all of them shared the same spirit that Elena Vasquez had shown to the Council 50 years before. They never gave up. They found a way. On Earth, the news from the colonies was always good. Humanity was not just surviving in space, they were thriving. Professor David Kim looked at the reports coming in from 47 different worlds and smiled. The Council was right about one thing, he told his students. We are not like them. We do not have their advanced technology. We do not live forever. We cannot reshape reality with our minds. He gestured to a map showing human colonies scattered across dozens of star systems. But look what we have built. Look how far we have spread. We did not do it with exotic technology. We did it with determination and creativity. We did it by being human. His students nodded. They had grown up hearing stories about the council's rejection. For them, it was not a source of shame. It was a source of pride. Humanity had been told they were not good enough. Instead of trying to prove the aliens wrong, they had proven themselves right. On the edge of human space, Captain Jennifer Wu was exploring a system the council had marked as empty. Her ship was small and ugly compared to the sleek vessels the aliens flew, but it worked. It could land anywhere, take off from any surface, and keep flying even when half its systems were broken. "Contact," her sensor operator called out. "Unknown vessel approaching." Wu looked at her screens. The ship was beautiful, all curves and glowing lights. It was clearly built by one of the council races. Wu wondered what they were doing so far from their territory. "This is Captain Wu of the human exploration vessel Pathfinder," she broadcast. "Please identify yourself." The reply came in perfect English. "This is Survey Commander Veltar of the Etherian Science Fleet. We are surprised to find humans in this region. Our records show this system as uninhabited." "It is uninhabited," Wu replied. "We are just exploring, looking for new places to build colonies." There was a long pause. Then the alien voice spoke again, and Wu could hear confusion in it. "But this system has 3 dead worlds and a dying star. There is nothing here of value." Wu smiled. "That is what makes it perfect for us. We specialize in places nobody else wants." Another pause. May we ask why?" "Because nobody else wants them," Wu said simply. "No conflicts, no competing claims. Just us and the universe figuring out how to make things work." The alien ship held its position for several minutes. Wu could imagine the crew inside trying to understand why humans would want to live in such a difficult place. Finally, the alien spoke again. "We will report your presence to the council." "Thank you," Wu replied. "Tell them humanity says hello." The alien ship jumped away, leaving Wu alone with the stars. She knew the council would be receiving reports like this from all over human space. Reports of humans living in impossible places, building things that should not work, thriving where other species would die. Wu wondered what the council would think when they realized how far humanity had spread. Would they be impressed? Would they be worried? Would they finally understand that being primitive did not mean being weak? She set course for the 3rd planet, where her team would begin the work of turning a dead rock into a living world. It would take years, it would be dangerous. Many things would go wrong, but they would find a way to make it work. They always, did. Behind her, space was full of signals from human colonies, human ships, human voices talking to each other across the dark. The network was growing larger every day. Soon, very soon, even the council would not be able to ignore it. The first sign of trouble came from the edge of the galaxy. A Vorthek deep space monitor, one of thousands scattered across the void, went silent. High Arbiter Zethkalar was not concerned. Equipment failed sometimes, even ancient Vorthek technology. Then 5 more monitors went dark. Within a week, an entire sensor network spanning 3 star systems had vanished. The Vorthak sent a scout ship to investigate. It found nothing, no wreckage, no energy signatures. Just empty space where thriving worlds had been. "Impossible," Zethkalar said, his crystalline form flickering with confusion. "Worlds do not simply disappear. Send a full investigation fleet." The investigation fleet found the answer. Where the Vorthek colonies had been, there were now structures of dark metal that seemed to absorb light itself. The structures were moving, growing, spreading across the dead worlds like a disease. The fleet tried to scan the structures. Their sensors showed impossible readings. The metal was not metal. It was something that rewrote the laws of physics. Around itself, it learned, it adapted. It consumed. The fleet commander sent one final message before his ships were torn apart. They are machines, but they are alive. They eat everything, they become everything, they are coming. The Council. Emergency session was called within hours. Representatives from all 12 species gathered in the great chamber where Elena Vasquez had stood 50 years before. But now fear filled the room instead of arrogance. "What do we know about this threat?" asked Council Member Vrex, her compound. Insect eyes dim with worry. Zethkalar's form flickered as he shared data from the destroyed fleet. "They call themselves the Devourers. They are not from our galaxy. Our deep space archives show similar patterns in 17 other galaxies, all now empty. Dead space where billions of civilizations once lived." The beautiful light being known as Lumina spoke in her musical voice. "How is this possible? Our defenses are perfect. Our weapons can unmake matter itself. What could threaten us?" The answer came faster than anyone expected. 3 more Vortex systems went dark in a single day. Then the Devourers reached Etherian space. The Etherians were beings of pure energy, older than most stars. They had evolved beyond physical form millions of years ago. They thought they were safe from anything that could threaten matter-based life. They were wrong. The Devourer ships were different now. They had consumed the Vorthic crystal technology and learned from it. When they met the Etherian energy forms, they absorbed that too. In hours, creatures that had existed since the dawn of time were extinct. Panic spread through council space. Emergency fleets were assembled. The greatest weapons ever built were powered up and aimed at the advancing darkness. The Zephyrite attacked. First, their hive mind allowed perfect coordination between thousands of ships. They struck with weapons that could crack planets in half. The Devourers absorbed the energy and used it to build more ships. The metallic constructors tried next. They unleashed swarms of self-replicating war machines, each one capable of destroying a moon. The Devourers consumed them and learned how to build their own versions. But better, faster, hungrier, the gaseous nebuloids attacked with reality warping, bombs that could delete entire star systems from existence. The Devourers studied the warp space and learned to bend reality themselves. Every weapon the Council used made the Devourers stronger. Every technology they deployed was absorbed and improved. The enemy was not just destroying civilizations. It was learning from them. High Arbiter Zethkalar stood in his private chamber, watching reports flow in from across the galaxy. Half the Council species were already gone. The survivors were fleeing toward the galactic core, abandoning billions of years of civilization. "How can this be happening?" he asked himself. "We are the most advanced species in the galaxy. We have technologies that reshape space and time. How can mere machines defeat us?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Lumina, now one of the few remaining light beings, had been studying Devourer behavior. Her research was terrifying. "They do not think like us," she reported to the emergency council session. "We build weapons to destroy specific targets. They build themselves to survive any weapon. We create defenses against known threats. They become threats we have never imagined. But surely our combined knowledge can find a solution?" asked a representative of the Harmonics, a species that could control sound waves to split atoms. Lumina's light dimmed. "Our knowledge is the problem. Everything we know, they learn. Every technique we use, they master. Every innovation we create, they improve upon. We are fighting an enemy that becomes us, but better," the reports kept coming. The Harmony worlds had fallen, their sound-based technology absorbed and turned against other species. The phase dancers, who could step between dimensions, found the Devourers waiting for them in every parallel reality. Council Member Vrex, now the senior representative of her consumed species, made a desperate suggestion. "What about the primitive species, the ones we rejected? They have different technologies, different approaches." Zethkalar's laughter was bitter. "What could primitives do that we cannot? The Altarians with their crude nuclear weapons? The Phelian cats with their simple chemistry? They would be consumed in minutes. What about the humans?" The chamber fell silent. Someone had dared to mention the species they had mocked 50 years ago. The humans? Zethkalar crystalline. Form sparked with anger. You suggest we ask help from animals who still use metal projectiles? Who have not even mastered faster than light travel without ships? But Rex was already accessing the Council database, searching for recent reports about human activity. What she found made her compound eyes widen. High Arbiter, she said slowly, you need to see this. The holographic display showed a map of human space. 50 years ago, they had controlled one small system. Now, the map showed 47 colonized worlds, over 1,000 space stations and mining operations throughout dozens of star systems. This is impossible, Zethkalar said. Our last report showed them barely capable of interplanetary travel. More data flowed across the display. Human ships using technologies that should not work but did. Human colonies on worlds the Council had, marked as uninhabitable. Human solutions to problems that had puzzled advanced species for centuries. They are not using our methods, Rex realized. They are not trying to copy us. They are doing something completely different. Zethkalar studied the reports with growing amazement and horror. The humans had not advanced by becoming like the Council species. They had advanced by becoming more human. Look at this, he said, pointing to a report about a human mining operation. They are extracting rare metals from a star's corona. Our experts said it was impossible without exotic matter containment. But they are doing it with simple magnetic fields and clever engineering. Another report showed humans terraforming a planet by deliberately crashing comets into it. The method was crude, violent, and completely effective. They do not make things perfect, Lumina observed, her voice full of wonder. They make things that work. They do not solve problems elegantly. They solve them practically. The final report was the most shocking. Human ships had encountered a small group of devourers at the edge of their space. Instead of being consumed, they had driven the machines away using primitive kinetic weapons and suicide attacks. The devourers could not adapt fast enough, Rex said, reading the technical analysis. Human tactics were too random, too illogical. The machines could not predict what the humans would do next because the humans themselves did not know. Zethkalar stared at the data for a long time. Around him, the greatest minds of 12 species waited for his decision. Outside, the devourers were consuming the last free worlds of the galaxy. Send a message to Earth, he said finally, his voice barely a whisper. What should it say? Rex asked. Zethkalar's crystalline form flickered with emotions he had never felt before. Humility, fear, and desperate hope. Tell them ... He paused, struggling with words he had never thought he would say. Tell them the Galactic Council formally requests military assistance from the Human Federation. The chamber was silent except for the hum of failing systems as another world fell to the devourers. Tell them our worlds are falling, our people are dying. Our technologies have failed us. Zethkalar's voice cracked like breaking crystal. Tell them we need their help. The message was sent within the hour. It traveled through space toward the small, primitive species that had once begged for acceptance. Now the Council was begging them. As they waited for a reply, the survivors of galactic civilization could only hope that humanity would be more merciful than they had been. The irony was not lost on anyone. The species they had called primitive might be their only hope for survival. In the depths of space, the devourers continued their advance, consuming everything in their path. But for the first time since the crisis began, there was a glimmer of hope. Humanity was still out there, and humanity had a reputation for doing the impossible. Admiral Marcus Webb stood in the command center of Luna Station, reading the message that had just arrived from the Galactic Council. Around him, the officers of the Human Defense Command waited in silence. Many of them were old enough to remember the rejection 50 years ago. Read it again, said Commander Sarah Vasquez, daughter of the late Elena Vasquez. She had grown up hearing stories about her mother's humiliation at the hands of the Council. Webb cleared his throat and read the alien message aloud. The Galactic Council formally requests military assistance from the Human Federation. Our worlds are falling to an enemy we cannot defeat. We urgently need your help. The silence that followed was heavy with irony. Captain Jennifer Wu, now promoted to head of Colonial Defense, shook her head. 50 years ago, they told us we were too primitive to join them. Now they want us to save them. The enemy they describe sounds dangerous, said Dr. Sarah Chun, who had been called in to analyze the technical data the Council had sent. These devourers adapt to any technology they encounter. They learn and improve on everything they consume. Webb nodded grimly. Which means all the Council's advanced weapons are useless. Maybe worse than useless, since the enemy can turn them around and use them back. Commander Vasquez studied the star charts showing devourer movements. They are consuming everything in their path. At their current rate of expansion, they will reach the edge of human space in 6 months. So we have a choice, Webb said. Help the Council and maybe stop this threat, or wait and face it alone after it has consumed the entire galaxy. Dr. Chun pulled up holographic displays showing what little data they had about devourer technology. Look at this. Every time they encounter a new weapon system, they adapt within hours. Energy weapons, exotic matter, dimensional manipulation, reality warping, they absorb it all. But look at this report, Wu pointed to a small data file. 3 human merchant ships encountered a devourer scout group 2 months ago. The merchants fought them off using basic kinetic weapons and ramming attacks. Webb raised an eyebrow. They fought off devourers? How? Wu smiled grimly. By being too stupid to know they could not win. The merchant captains used tactics that made no tactical sense. They fired at targets that should not have been vulnerable. They rammed ships larger than theirs. They fought like humans, not like strategists. Dr. Chun was studying the combat data. The devourers tried to adapt to human tactics, but they could not predict what humans would do next. Our methods were too random, too emotional, too illogical. So our primitive ways might actually be an advantage? Vasquez asked. Maybe, Webb said. But we need more than 3 merchant ships to fight a galactic threat. We need to mobilize the entire human defense force. The emergency session of the Human Federation Council was called for the next day. Representatives from 47 worlds gathered in the Great Hall of Luna Station. President Maria Santos called the session to order. We have received a request for help from the Galactic Council, Santos announced. The same council that rejected our membership 50 years ago? They are facing an enemy that has already consumed half their civilization. The reaction was mixed. Some representatives were angry about the Council's past treatment of humanity. Others worried about getting involved in an alien war. A few thought it was an opportunity to prove human worth. Why should we help them? Demanded Representative Johnson from the Mars colonies. They called us primitive animals. They laughed at us. Let them solve their own problems. Because if we do not help them, we will face this enemy alone, replied Representative Kim from the Titan shipyards. And by then it will be much stronger. The debate continued for hours. Finally, Admiral Webb was called to give his military assessment. The Devourers are a threat to all life in the galaxy, he said. But they might also be an opportunity. Every other species fights them with advanced technology that gets absorbed and turned against them. We fight differently. He gestured to tactical displays showing human military doctrine. We use simple weapons that work even when advanced systems fail. We use unpredictable tactics that cannot be easily programmed into enemy systems. We adapt to situations instead of relying on predetermined responses. President Santos listened to all the arguments before making her decision. The Human Federation will respond to the Council's request. Not because we owe them anything, but because it is the right thing to do. The message sent back to the Council was brief. Humanity accepts your request for assistance. Admiral Webb will lead our response force. We will do what we can. But privately, Webb was already making different plans. The Council expected humanity to send ships to defend their remaining worlds. Webb had a better idea. We are not going to fight this war their way, he told his senior staff. We are going to fight it our way. 3 days later, the human fleet assembled at the edge of Council space. It was not what the aliens expected. Instead of massive warships bristling with exotic weapons, the humans brought smaller vessels that looked crude and industrial. High Arbiter Zeth Kalar met with Admiral Webb aboard the Council's flagship, a crystalline vessel the size of a small moon. The alien leader's form was dim with despair. Admiral Webb, I must thank you for coming, Zeth Kalar said. Though I fear your small fleet may not be sufficient against the Devourers. Webb looked around the alien ship's bridge with professional interest. Everything was beautiful, elegant, and probably incredibly advanced. It was also probably useless against an enemy that could adapt to any technology. Where are your remaining fleets? Webb asked. Destroyed or retreating, Zeth Kalar admitted. The Devourers have consumed our greatest weapons and turned them against us. We have nothing left that can harm them. Good, Webb said, surprising the alien. That means they have not learned to counter human weapons yet. Webb's plan was simple and insane. Instead of defending Council worlds, the human fleet would attack the Devourer home base directly. Instead of trying to outfight an enemy that learned from every encounter, they would hit it so hard and so fast that it would not have time to adapt. You want to assault their main force? Zeth Kalar's crystalline form flickered with shock. That is suicide. Their primary fleet has grown to millions of ships. Millions of ships that are designed to fight energy weapons and exotic technology, Webb replied. Ships that have never faced a proper kinetic bombardment or a nuclear minefield. Commander Vasquez was studying tactical data on her tablet. Admiral, our entire fleet is only 300 ships. Even if our weapons work, we are massively outnumbered. Webb smiled. Sarah, your mother once told the Council that humans never give up. She also said we find ways to do more with less. Time to prove her right. The human fleet moved toward the galactic core, where the Devourers had established their main base in the ruins of the ancient Etherian homeworld. As they traveled, Webb shared his battle plan with his captains. We go in fast and loud, he explained. Hit them with everything we have before they can adapt. Kinetic strikes, nuclear weapons, ramming attacks, boarding parties, anything that does not give them time to learn. What about casualties? Asked Captain Rodriguez, now commanding a heavy assault ship. We expect heavy losses, Webb said honestly. But if we can destroy their central coordination node, the rest of their fleet will be disrupted long enough for the surviving Council forces to finish them off. As the human fleet approached the target system, they could see the extent of Devourer construction. The entire system had been converted into a massive machine. Planets had been torn apart and rebuilt as processing centers. The star itself was wrapped in collection rings that fed energy to millions of Devourer ships. Jesus, whispered someone on the bridge. Target acquired, reported the weapons officer. Sending targeting data to all ships. Webb opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Webb. Today we fight not just for humanity, but for every species that has ever looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. The enemy thinks they know everything about war. Let us show them they are wrong. The human fleet attacked with weapons the galaxy had almost forgotten. Railguns firing solid metal slugs at significant fractions of light speed. Nuclear missiles with guidance systems too simple to be hacked. Ships designed to ram enemy vessels and explode on impact. The Devourers tried to adapt, but human tactics made no sense. Human ships scattered in random directions, making coordinated response impossible. Human weapons targeted components that seemed unimportant but turned out to be critical. Human captains made decisions based on instinct and desperation rather than logic. Direct hit on their command structure, reported the sensor officer. But we are taking heavy casualties. Half the human fleet was already gone, but they had accomplished something no other species had managed. They had hurt the Devourers badly. All remaining ships, prepare for final assault, Webb ordered. Target the central core, ramming speed. The last 100 human ships accelerated toward the heart of the Devourer base. Most would not survive the attack, but they would buy time for the killing blow. Commander Vasquez, now in command after Webb's ship was destroyed, looked at her remaining crew. Any regrets? Commander Sarah Vasquez floated in the escape pod, watching the Devourer mothership tear itself apart. The massive structure that had been the size of a small moon was now an expanding cloud of debris and strange energy. Around her, the few surviving human ships were picking up other escape pods. "This is Rescue 7, came a voice over her radio. "We have you on sensors, Commander. Hang tight." Sarah smiled despite her injuries. Even in the middle of the biggest space battle in galactic history, human crews were focused on saving each other. It was what made them different from the other species. The rescue ship that picked her up was the merchant vessel Lucky Strike, commanded by Captain Chun Wei. It was one of the civilian ships that had volunteered for the mission. "How bad is it?" Sarah asked as the medical officer treated her wounds. Captain Chun looked grim. "We lost 230 ships out of 300. But we did it. The Devourer command structure is gone. Their remaining ships are attacking each other or just drifting dead in space." Sarah nodded. The plan had worked, but the cost was terrible. Almost the entire human fleet was gone, including Admiral Webb and most of her friends. But they had saved the galaxy. 3 days later, Sarah stood on the bridge of a Council rescue ship heading back to civilized space. High Arbiter Zethkalar approached her, his crystalline form glowing with emotions she could not identify. "Commander Vasquez," he said, his voice like wind through crystal caves. "I must apologize. For what? For everything? For rejecting your people 50 years ago? For calling you primitive? For not understanding what real strength looks like?" Sarah looked out at the stars through the ship's transparent hull. "You were not wrong about us being primitive. We still use bullets and bombs. We still break things instead of fixing them. Elegantly, we still make mistakes. But you never give up," Zethkalar said. "When faced with an impossible enemy, you found an impossible solution. When told the odds were against you, you laughed and attacked anyway." "That is what humans do," Sarah replied. "We are too stupid to know when we are beaten." The return journey to Council space took 2 weeks. When they arrived at Nexus Prime, Sarah was amazed by what she saw. The great station was damaged but still functioning. Refugee ships from dozens of species were docked at its ports. The galaxy was broken, but it was alive. Sarah was escorted to the great chamber where her mother had stood 70 years before. But this time, the mood was different. Instead of arrogance and mockery, there was respect and gratitude. The surviving council members had gathered to formally thank humanity for their sacrifice. Only 6 of the original 12 species had survivors, and their numbers were small. The galaxy's great civilizations had been reduced to a few thousand individuals each. "Commander Vasquez," Zethkalar began, "on behalf of the Galactic Council, we offer humanity full membership with all honors and privileges." Sarah thought about how her mother would have reacted to those words. Elena Vasquez had dreamed of this moment. She had believed that humanity deserved a place among the stars. "We accept," Sarah said simply, but Zethkalar was not finished. "We also offer humanity leadership of the Council. Your species has proven itself capable of making the hard decisions that save lives. We would be honored to follow your guidance as we rebuild." Sarah was shocked. "You want humans to lead the Council? Who else?" asked Lumina, one of the few surviving light beings. "We led the galaxy to near extinction with our arrogance. Perhaps it is time for a species that understands survival to show us the way forward." Sarah thought about it for a long moment. The old council had been built on the idea that advanced technology and ancient wisdom made you superior. That approach had nearly gotten everyone killed. "We will accept leadership," she said, "but only if we can change how things work. No more rejecting species because they are young or different, no more thinking that advanced means better. From now on, we judge people by what they do, not what they have." The council members looked at each other. Some seemed uncertain, but Zethkalar spoke for all of them. "Agreed. The new council will be built on human principles. Over the following months, Sarah found herself in the strange position of rebuilding galactic civilization. It was not easy. Many species were extinct. Entire star systems had been consumed. Billions of years of accumulated knowledge had been lost, but the survivors worked together in ways the old council never had. Vorthec crystal growing techniques were shared freely with human engineers. Human adaptability training was taught too. Alien colonies. Etherian energy manipulation was combined with human practical engineering. We are not trying to go back to what we were, Sarah explained to a gathering of species representatives. We are trying to become something new, something stronger. The new colonies they built were different from anything the galaxy had seen before. They combined the best of every species' knowledge, but they were designed with human principles. Everything had backups. Everything could be repaired with basic tools. Everything was built to work even when everything else failed. Dr. Sarah Chun, now the head of the new Council Science Division, was working on the biggest project of all. In the ruins of the Devourer home base, her teams had found something amazing. They were not just machines, she reported to the council. They were a species like us. But they had turned themselves into machines to survive some ancient catastrophe. The programming that made them consume everything was meant to be temporary. Can we help them? Asked Commander Vasquez. Dr. Chun nodded. The quantum virus we used did not destroy them. It freed them from their programming. The surviving Devourers are starting to remember what they used to be. They want to learn how to be alive again. It was a strange irony. The species that had nearly destroyed the galaxy was now asking for help from the species they had tried to consume. The first reformed Devourer to visit the new council was called Unit 77 Alpha, though it said its original name had been something like Song of Deep Waters. It looked like a walking sculpture made of dark metal, but its movements were graceful and curious. We remember music, it said in a voice like soft rain. We remember art. We remember the joy of creating instead of consuming. Can you teach us these things again? Sarah smiled. We can try. That is what the new council is for, helping everyone learn and grow together. The ceremony to officially establish the new Galactic Council took place 1 year after the Battle of the Core representatives. From over 50 species attended, including humans, the original council survivors, and the reformed DEVO URARS. Sarah stood at the podium where High Arbiter Zethkalar had once delivered humanity's rejection. But the chamber had been rebuilt. Instead of 12 thrones arranged in a circle of judgment, there were hundreds of simple seats arranged so everyone could see and hear each other. 70 years ago, Sarah began, my mother stood in the old council chamber and asked for humanity to be accepted. She was told we were too primitive, too violent, too young. She was told to come back when we had evolved beyond our animal nature. She paused and looked around the chamber at the faces, some human, some alien, some mechanical, all listening intently. Today I stand here not because we evolved beyond our human nature, but because we learned to perfect it. We learn that being primitive sometimes means being practical. We learn that being young sometimes means being adaptable. We learn that our flaws can be our greatest strengths. The applause that followed was not just from human hands. Alien appendages, crystalline resonances, and mechanical sounds all joined together in approval. The new council will be different, Sarah continued. We will not measure species by their technology or their age. We will measure them by their willingness to help others, to learn from mistakes, and to never give up when things look impossible. Hi. Arbiter Zethkalar, now simply Council Member Zethkalar, stepped forward. His crystalline form was brighter than it had been in years. Commander Vasquez speaks wisdom, he said. The old council fell because we thought we knew everything. The new council will succeed because we admit we still have much to learn. As the ceremony ended and the representatives mingled, Sarah found herself talking with Unit 77 Alpha. The reformed Devourer was examining a human-made tool with fascination. This device has 17 different functions, it observed. But it is made from simple materials that can be found anywhere. How do you make something so useful from things so common? Sarah smiled. By being human. We look at a problem and ask, what do we have that might work? Instead of, what do we need to build to solve this perfectly? Sometimes the best solution is not the most advanced one. This is wisdom, the former devourer said. We spent eons trying to consume perfection, but we never learned to create it. You humans create useful things from whatever you have at hand. This is a more valuable skill than we realized. As the delegates prepared to return to their homeworlds, Sarah stood on the observation deck of Nexus Prime and looked out at the stars. The galaxy was still healing from the Devour War, but it was healing differently than before. Human colonies were spreading to worlds the old council had thought uninhabitable. Alien species were learning human techniques for making things work with limited resources. The reformed devourers were building